up, everybody? You are back on the other side with me, Mike G, and today I'm bringing you the incredible story of one of fighting's favorite people. He is a fireman, a boxer, a beloved UFC fighter, and a bare knuckle fighter, and currently rocks the commentary desk for the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce you to Chris Lights Out Lytle.
What's happening, Mike G? Thank you so much for letting me come on here and talk with you.
Oh man, Chris, thank you so much for your time. It's an honor to talk to you, sir. I want to go back to the very beginning. Talk to me about being a kid. What was life like growing up for you?
Oh man, I was a wild kid. Like to do all kinds of, not only sports. I just like to do everything. I was constantly getting hurt, jumping out of trees, jumping off the roof, just a boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Constant. I know I probably made my mom nuts. She was always worried about what I was doing. There's all kinds of funny stories about me just being getting into not bad, but just getting into trouble.
Right. A lot of exploring.
Yeah, just being wild. Like they couldn't contain me. You know, as people thought I was nuts. People like it when people found out I ended up being a cage fighter. They go, "Yeah, that sounds about right." You know?
All right. Tell me about discovering martial arts or combat sports.
I started really at about 12 years old. I started wrestling, and
Okay.
it wasn't considered a combat sport then. But I think if we all know now, it's probably the best base for fighting
Yeah.
anybody can have. People who it's not just the skills you learn in wrestling. That is part of it, but it's just that mental toughness that you develop and
Hmm.
that ability to put your whole life into one sport and one singular activity, and it can encompass your whole life. It changes the way you think, the way you sleep, the way you eat,
Hmm.
the way you do everything. I don't know any other sport like that. Like every time I played football. You're done with football, you're kind of done. I played basketball, played baseball. When you're done with practice or a game, that's kind of it. It's never done with wrestling. So I think that translates over to fighting very well. And that was
Hmm.
really what I consider my first martial art.
Okay. Um, talk a little bit about the early days for you training MMA. Where did you get your start training at a big gym?
Oh, well, there wasn't any big gym back in. I started in 1998. You have to understand
Okay.
it was, I started going to, I went to a jujitsu guy a few times, and he was just doing it. He's a police officer who's doing it at the police station. And after about four times of doing that, like about a month, he was like, "Man, you're pretty good. I need to send you on to like a real place." So I started going to the Gold's Gym in 1998 over by me, and they had some people there. And one of the guys was a guy from my wrestling team in high school, and
Okay.
so I was like, okay, this is cool. I know somebody here, and we just started training. And I'm still pretty young, and I'm beating these old, adults, 30-year-old men with tattoos and big, strong biker guys, and I'm
Hmm.
I'm beating them pretty quick. I'm like, man, I'm pretty good at this sport. I gotta start trying to train a lot more. I went and watched a fight, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna compete here. Started competing, and it was different back then. When you competed, it was like, what is this guy good at? Oh, he's a kickboxer. What about
Hmm.
this guy? He's a wrestler. This guy's a jujitsu guy. So it was like one sport, So you just had to know that. And you try to do the opposite. Okay, he's a ground guy. I'm going to keep it on my feet. So
Yeah.
it just it was called NHB back then, no holds barred. It wasn't MMA. That term didn't
Hmm.
exist. So um, you just kind of fought everybody, and I did really well and started being able to go over to Japan and fight in pancrase pretty quick in 1999, and I stayed over there for a while and trained. And man, that was when I learned like what it takes to be a good fighter. You have to train legit. Like I was there doing 2 days, 6 days a week. You'd have Sunday off, but it was like that was it. It was just a constant grind. I was like, man, that's what this sport is, and I fell in love with it. I was like,
Right.
I want to be in this grind. Once you get like I knew that from wrestling. Once you get addicted to the grind, it's not that bad. It's a lifestyle you have to develop. And I know a lot
Right.
of these younger people want to be a fighter. They see all the fun stuff. Yeah, that's 1% of it, maybe 2%. That's not what really happens.
Hmm. Okay, you mentioned Japan and pancrase. A lot of your early fights were over there. For people who are watching this that maybe aren't familiar with pancrase, can you explain some of the differences between that and MMA that we're used to here in America?
Well, Pancrase was where like Ken Shamrock came from, Boss Rutan, Guy Metzger. A lot of these early UFC stars, they were from
Hmm.
Pancrase. That was one of the few organizations where they were doing legit fighting, but it was different because a lot of it was like open-handed palm strikes, unless to the body. You
Hmm.
could hit to the body, but over to the face, you had these kind of like shin guards are these boots you had
Hmm.
to wear, and he had tennis shoes on. Um, but it was weird because you could still do heel hooks and knee bars and all kinds of stuff like that. But it was just different because over there it was considered almost kind of rude to just really focus on the striking. It was more about the technique involved.
Sure.
Japanese crowd is very intelligent. They understand what's going on. When a guy starts to get caught in a submission, they cheer. I mean, they're very quiet the whole time. All of a sudden, you start to get them in a submission, they cheer. The person gets out, they clap crazily, and then they calm down and go back to being quiet. So, if you're sitting there just trying to hit somebody with an open hand the whole time, you're not going to gain a lot of respect there. So it was more about the
Right.
art form, and it was also more about the Bushido spirit, just going out and fighting hard. If you came out and fight
Right.
hard, and you almost got caught in some moves, and you got out, and you just dealt with a lot of adversity. They loved you.
Hmm.
They showed that you were a true fighter. If you lost, it didn't matter if you came to fight. But that was back then. Like, they didn't have any weight classes when I first showed
Right.
up there, and it was weird because I had to lie to them and tell them I was like 195 pounds and I weighed like 175. I showed up and they were talking. I was like, I've been sick, not feeling good. I had to make up an excuse why I was so late.
Wow. You made your UFC debut, I believe, in 2003 at UFC 45 against future legend Robbie Lawler. Thoughts on that fight and how it played out?
Well, I love that fight because going in, everybody thought I had I think a 10% chance of winning. Everybody thought I had no chance and he was going to knock
Hmm.
me out real quick and it was going to be an easy night for Robbie. I was like, okay, cool. I've got a lot of experience. I'm not coming down to lay down for this guy because he had a big name right then. So
Hmm.
I felt like going in, I felt like I had nothing to lose. And it was a fun fight, really, because he went out there right away. And I know he took me down immediately, which surprised me. He tried to take me down. And I realized really quick, this guy's strong as can be. I had him in a good guillotine choke, and he picked me up by the foot and threw
Hmm.
me down. I was like, man, this guy's strong. I could tell he hit hard. So um, I had a couple good kicks in his face, and then I feel like I won the second round pretty easy. Kind of didn't do much, and then the third round we kind of just started really banging. I landed some good shots on him. I thought I was landing some good ones, and I got too excited, stepped forward, and he hit me with a real good as a right hand and put
Hmm.
me down. But I remember I was clapped on the way down because I was like, that didn't hurt. You just knocked me off balance. And I got back up and tried. I remember I got like a little suplex on him then and tried to get his back. That dude's strong. It was. I thought it was an amazing fight. Gave me a lot of fans. A lot of people said, dude, this dude, yeah, he comes to fight. And we were just sitting there hitting each other real hard and clapping and yelling at each other. It was fun. I loved it. It was one of
Yeah,
those fights where you just kind of you lose yourself in the fight. You're not thinking
sure.
about anybody. I could have been doing that if there's 10,000 people, 10 million or 10. We could have been in the gym. It'd been the same way. Because one
Kind of
thing
like
about having the fans,
autopilot in a way.
not really autopilot, just uber focused. Like,
Okay.
yeah, this is my task is to take this guy out, and I don't care who's watching. Like I said, I've been like that in the gym. We just fighting, which is not good in the gym, but you get that voice. We just focus. This is what my goal is. Take this guy out. I remember one time I was in like sparring. This one guy, he's a boxer. We were just doing boxing back when I was in that sport, and I think we probably sparred about 16 or 18 rounds in a row. And like, I was just like, I'm not quitting before this guy quits. There's no way. And I could tell he had the same thoughts. We just kept going until my coach came out and just started yelling, what are you guys, get out of the ring. What are you guys doing? Like, okay, because I wasn't going to quit and he wasn't going to quit. And we were just focused on going in there and taking each other out. So, like I said, it can be in a gym, it can be in a fight, and it can be on pay-per-view. I don't care. Once you get in that zone, that's it.
Right. All right. Cage Rage 15 against Ross Mason in London. Uh, share with us your thoughts on that fight and how it felt to win the Cage Rage belt.
I forgot I won that belt. That was amazing. It was my first time over in England. I was, I didn't know what to think of that. I seen some of the fights over there, and I thought they were amazing. I think, is that where Anderson Silva had a nasty
Hmm.
elbow knockout? And I said,
Yep.
oh, that was incredible. And
Yeah.
I didn't like the cage because the cage was made of like this mesh. It was
Hmm.
like like you sank back in it and you felt like you could fall through almost, but you could.
Okay.
It was interesting. I was like, oh, this is definitely different. And I mean, Ross was a big, strong guy. I didn't realize
Hmm.
how big and like he was cutting a lot of weight. He was very strong, very athletic. And I didn't like the rules because you couldn't elbow. So I get him like crucifix mounted, and I'm like having to barely hit him with my left hand because if I set up, he'd bench press me off. He's strong as can be. So I'm just hitting him with these little punches. I'm thinking is, man, if I could throw an elbow, this fight is over. And I couldn't. So then I got him there again, the second round, same thing, and I ended up taking his back and choking. But he was a strong, athletic guy. Seemed like a nice guy. But yeah, just going over international. I'd already been over to Japan several times, and
Hmm.
I'm trying to just go all over the world. I knew the sport was growing in England. You know, that when it first started, I feel like it was in three countries. It was in Japan, it was in Brazil, and it was in the United States.
Right.
Now you see the evolution is starting to grow over in Canada, over in
Hmm.
England. So I was happy to be part of going over and trying to. It was part of me. I'm going over before these guys get too good. You know.
Right before they make their way over.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Um, I want to know about your time on the Ultimate Fighter House. How did the opportunity to be on the house or on the show present itself to you?
Well, I knew after I fought Robbie Lawler, like they liked me. I put me in with Tiki. I beat him. They put me in with Ronald John, who's I think extremely underrated. I beat him.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's an animal.
Hmm.
And then I think I know I lost to a Parisian, and I felt like bad. I was fighting my buddy of mine now, Joe Riggs, and
Hmm.
I felt primed. I knew he just cut down, so I knew he didn't have much gas because he just made
Hmm.
170 for the first time. I get in the second round and I'm on top of him, like, got this. This is in the bag. And he throws an elbow from on bottom and cut me open and lost. And I was like, damn. And right after that, he gets the title fight. So I was like, man, I was close to the title there. That sucks. So, but then the Ultimate Fighter was the comeback. So it was like they called me like they
Hmm.
really wanted me on. Like, man, you're right there. Let's put you on this show. The winner gets a title fight. So, um, cool. Let's do this. I loved it. It was the first time, really, I think the only time in my career I really got to train like other fighters. You know, my
Hmm.
whole career I was on the Indianapolis Fire Department.
Hmm.
I had four kids. You know, I was always time was my biggest enemy. So here was the only time I really got to. I loved it. I got to train with the best people in the world. I had Randy Couture and George St. Pierre kind of
Yeah.
helping coaching. I'm training with I had Dean Thomas there with me, Matt Sarah. It was incredible. So a lot of people I know were, oh, I don't have my phone. I don't have any TV. I don't have any music. I remember me and Matt Sarah talking like, I don't want any of that stuff, man. I want to
Yeah.
sit here and train. This is the best opportunity I'm ever going to have in my life. And I felt like I got a lot better then because, like I said, it was the only time I trained like a pro, really. I mean, I guess I did train like a pro here, but not
Hmm.
totally dedicated in camp. I mean, I did
Right.
everything I could here, but I'm still constantly, I never took off from the fire department to have a camp. I was always working.
Hmm. Okay. As you know, and people who watch this channel know, I try to cover struggle and redemption in some way. And I think the way that probably best applies to you is something that you had mentioned to me when we talked before about the way you fought Matt in the finals, how you felt about yourself afterwards, and what steps you took to change that. And then looking at your career and award bonuses afterwards, you can see that change was there. So if you don't mind, kind of explain
Sure.
what happened in that process.
Okay, so like I just said, my whole career I was fighting. I was also on the fire department, and me having four kids, the wife didn't work. I mean, fighting didn't pay much back then. You gotta understand. I'm
Right.
first start when I fought Robbie Lawler. I think it was 2-2. You got 2,000 to show, 2,000 went. Well, I lost, so I got 2,000 minus my corner and license fees, about 1,800. So that's not very much to be at
Yeah.
the highest level. Um, fire department was paying the bills. Fights were given a little bit of extra, but man, I had my kids like to play basketball, go to basketball camp, do gymnastics and cheerleading and stuff.
Hmm.
And that stuff costs money. So
Hmm.
I had to miss a lot of events. If I'm constantly working 24 hours, at the fire department, then have a fight coming up, I got to be there. I'm not making all the basketball games and meets. So
Hmm.
um, when I had this opportunity, they told me that the winner got $100,000 in cash, and they also got like a sponsorship from Zions. I remember I was like, wow. I mean, 200 grand to me was the world. So I was like, I got to
Yeah.
win this fight at all costs. I'm winning this fight. I'm making up for all I haven't did for my family. Like all the little things are going to have better things now because it's going to be worth my time being gone to do this.
Hmm.
So I go on that Ultimate Fighter, and they not that they encourage drinking, but if you are out of paper towels and you say we're out of paper towels on the phone, they'll say we'll bring them in 5 minutes or whatever. And they might bring them in. If you get out there and you say we're out of vodka, you're not getting the K out in vodka before somebody's bringing it in there. You know what I mean? Like they so they it makes good TV. My
Hmm.
point is, I didn't drink the whole time I was on that show. I'm like, I'm here to win. I'm not here for anything else for this. So I really dedicated myself. I won my two fights. I go away for six. They have to edit the show and then air it. So it's
Hmm.
about 6 months later. And all that 6 months, all I'm doing is thinking of what I'm going to do with this money, what my kids are going to do with this money. So I get to the fight, and I've been thinking about this for 6 months.
Mhm.
Matt's been thinking about this for 6 months. So both of us went out there. The winner gets a couple $100,000, a title fight, and all this other stuff. The loser gets like 10 grand, nothing. So I was like, okay, I got to win. And so both went out there, and in my opinion, put on a very boring fight because we were both afraid to lose, very afraid to lose. It was a terrible fight, and it was so bad the judges didn't know how to score. The first judge gives him all 3 rounds. The next judge gives me all 3 rounds. It's like, I've never seen that happen in a judge, you know what I mean? And the last judge gave it to him, So I was just dumbfounded, man. I was just, I didn't make hardly any money. I was upset with myself. I was upset with everybody. I was mad at, just how the thing played out. And didn't think it was fair. I started blaming other stuff, and eventually, after a couple months, maybe a month or so, I don't know, I was like, man, you've almost climbed to that title a couple of times and it hasn't happened. Why are you so upset now? And it was like, oh, it's the money, And I was like, well, there started to give bonuses right about then. I said, you're a good fighter. You have the ability to make money here. You can fight and get bonuses. You owe your kids 200 grand, man. I mean, I don't care if you got to fight for the next 50 years. You're gonna get them that damn money, and you're gonna do it now. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna change up how I do stuff. And I was like, man, I don't care if I lose this fight as long as I go out there and fight as hard as I can, because I didn't like that feeling of going out and not doing my best and not fighting the way I want to fight.
Yeah.
Like, to fight safe. That's not me. It's never been me. So I'm like, I'm not gonna do that ever again. And just go out there and try and knock people's heads off. And if not, if they try to take you down, try to submit them. And if not, just try and beat them up the whole time, because that's gonna be a great fight. And
Yeah.
my next 14 fights, I won 10 bonuses. I think I should have won 2 more, but they still gave me like a locker room bonus for those. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it changed my career. It changed it changed the way I think about things, man. Things like, if you have problems, nobody's going to give you anything. You have to do everything for yourself. And you have to, main thing I learned was, when you can't make excuses for things. I mean, I used to give excuses, but now, like, I lost that fight because I didn't fight the way I wanted to. And if I had
Mhm.
lost and I fought the way I tried to, so what? I mean, you've lost. I mean, you did what you could. You fought the way you should have. Go out there and be yourself, and don't try and be somebody else that you're not. Don't worry about what's at risk. Be true to
Mhm.
yourself. And so that helped me in everything in my life after that. At first I just applied that to fighting, but then I started being able to, like, apply it to everything. Don't make excuses, Chris. If anything happens, it's your fault. And once you
Mhm.
accept fault, you can fix it. I always talk about people when they don't, if they make excuses for things, how you gonna fix a problem? It's not your fault. It's this. It's A or B. It's C. It's nothing my fault. I didn't do anything. Yeah, it is your fault.
Mhm.
And once you accept that, you can fix problems. So that was the best lesson I ever learned, and it all happened because of that. I feel like I made way. I ended up making, those 10 bonuses paid way more than that 200 grand. I made my money up. I changed my style. I gained more
Mhm.
fans. I redeemed myself, and I feel good that no matter what happens, I be successful. You just have to have the right mindset. I want you to sit there and sulk and blame other people.
Right.
I'm gonna take control of myself, and I'm gonna fix it.
Accountability.
Accountability, 100%, man. If you don't have that,
Mhm.
I mean, man, I can't stand it when I see people just keep making excuses and stuff. I'm like, man, you haven't learned yet. It's not, nothing in your life is going to be good till you learn this lesson.
Yeah, I had a boss once that always said complaining without offering a solution is just whining.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, you can complain, but you can say, okay, this is wrong. Here's what we do about it.
Mhm.
Here's how I fix this problem. If you don't do that, what are we talking about here, man?
Absolutely. UFC 73 versus Jason Gilliam. You pull off a super slick submission. Can you explain how to catch someone in an inverted triangle and an Americana at the same time?
It's one of my signature moves, man. I just did a seminar over with some people in Kansas City, and I kind of
Mhm.
showed that. They asked me about it. They said, you did that on him and in Matt Brown. I was like, damn, you guys know your stuff. So it's
Yep.
really easy. You get side mount, you trap the arm with the head, you step over. Gotta be flexible to it. So you step over
Ooh.
and get that reverse triangle, and then you make sure you keep that head trap with your arm, and then you put your arm. You got 2 arms on there, one arm. You're gonna get one of those 2. You can get the triangle, you're gonna get the arm bar, and you kind of keep the head cupped so they can't bridge. So that they just have to lay there and take it one way or the other. They're in big trouble.
That's wild. Let's see here. Fast forward to UFC 116. You took on one of my personal favorite fighters, Matt Brown. Talk me through that win.
Well, like I just said, same submission, but it's funny. I fought Matt Brown after the Ultimate Fighter. I took a fight out of the UFC in
Hmm.
Indianapolis, and it was funny because the UFC they said, man, you can fight outside here one fight, but if you lose, we're gonna cut you. I was like, all right, no problem. So yeah, like all right, and then I was supposed to fight kind of a local guy, and the UFC's like, oh, don't fight him. He's kind of on our radar. We don't. I mean, he's pretty tough. So I was like, all right. The guy put on the fight came back to me and said, I got this guy from Ohio. What's his name? He's like Matt Brown. He's like 6-10 or something, or 10-6 or something. He's all right, but nothing special. Like, cool,
Hmm.
set it up. So about 2 days before the fight, I started looking at this guy, seeing who I was like, this dude, he's fighting some pretty tough guys in their backyard, like in a row. Like, man, this guy might be pretty tough. And I could just tell by the way when he was at the weigh-ins, he came and shook my hand. I was like, yeah, he's coming to fight. Like he's not here for a paycheck. He's not here to say he fought me, a guy in UFC.
Yeah.
He's here to beat me. And dude was tough. And luckily I got him in like this like a guillotine and submitted him. I could tell he's pissed. And right after that he gets on the Ultimate Fighter and kills him. But I knew he was tough.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I remember I saw him fight a friend of mine, Pete Sells, in Ohio, and he just demolished him. And I was like, I was at that point in my career where I was like, all I want to do is fight exciting fights. I want to
Hmm.
fight. I want people to come and try to take my head off. Because if you're gonna take my head off, I'm gonna try to take yours off.
Hmm.
I'm either gonna knock you out or submit you or win the fight of the night. I think that's my thought process because you ain't stopping me. So
Hmm.
I told Dana or Joe Silva, I was like, yeah, I'd love to fight him again because it'd be a great fight. And
Yeah.
I guarantee in his mind, he's like, yeah. I mean, that's what they want. They want great fights. So we fought and he's tough as nails, and I end up catching him with that. I mean, he came this close to submit me, man. I tried to go for this move I had, and he caught me in a darce, and I was like, oh, this is tight. And I just had to, use all my training and skill to get out of it. I did. Then, I caught him in the second round, caught him in that reverse triangle choke, and it was a good win for me. I thought I was going to win the submission of the night that time, but then Brock Lesnar fought Shane Carwin, and Shane beat him up for the first round, and then Brock
Yeah.
squeezed his head and tapped him out. Shane was done after the first round. I knew it. Like
Sure.
he never been past one round, so I was like, if he goes past one round, he's gonna lose.
Yeah.
Exactly
You
what
should have
happened.
got that bonus.
Oh, they gave it to him, and he was like 70 grand. I was so mad. I was like,
That's the easiest submission anybody will ever get.
exactly. I'm like, dude, that didn't even pay for Brock's growth hormone that year, and that could have helped me and the family. Come on, dude, don't do that to me.
Yeah, I think it was wasn't it deer antler spray back then? Something like that.
Yeah,
uh,
whatever nonsense they said it was. Yeah.
right. UFC 116, you get your chance for redemption. You get your rematch against Matt Serra. What was different this time around?
The difference was me and Matt were both in a different place, and he was like, I talked to him, and I didn't even want that fight because Matt's one of my favorite guys in there,
Hmm.
and I didn't want any rematch. I didn't even want I thought the first fight was terrible. Why do it again?
Sure.
Um, but Joe had it, Silva set it up. I was like, all right, I'll do this, and I think Matt told me that he lost his title, and so he was like, man, how do I get back right in the title hunt? He's like, well, Chris has never been knocked out, so if I knock him out, that'll put me right back up there. So he stood and traded with me, and I was like, cool. This is, he could have tried to take me down the whole time and make it a boring fight. He didn't. Mad
Hmm.
respect to him. Um, so I got the win, but like I said, I want nothing. But I'm glad that it turned out the way it did when he won that fight. Because I mean, it'd been good to get that title, but I feel better about knowing I feel like I can accomplish anything. Now I feel
Hmm.
like I'm better as a person. I felt he won that title.
Absolutely.
His life's better. I like him. I'm glad it worked out. We're both good places now. So
Hmm.
I'm just happy how it turned out. That I didn't feel like I got any revenge against him. I just felt like I had to fight a friend. And hey, it was good to do in front of Indianapolis, in front of my hometown, but whatever.
There we go. All right. Your last UFC fight was against Dan Hardy. You won by guillotine. Did you know at the time that would be your last MMA fight?
Oh, yeah. I like before that, if you watch the weigh ins, I walk up to Dana White and I hand him a letter. And
Okay.
that's my retirement letter. You know what I mean? I decided that before that. Before the fight before that. I was supposed to fight in Australia. I hurt my knee, had surgery. I took the fight, and it was like a month later I did a fight, and they changed my opponent at the end. And I knew it was gonna be a tough fight, but I can't. I got some kind of a sickness where I can't pass up on a fight. It's like a mental thing where I feel like if you're the best guy in the world, you're right there for the title. You should fight anybody. And it's like
Hmm.
I got that old school mentality, which is great unless you're the fighter and it's not smart. And that's me. Like nobody can. I can't turn a fight down. So I fought, lost a decision, and I was like, man, really started looking at my life. I'm like, I was like 30, just turning 37. I was like, you're not home enough. I actually went to some of my kids' meets and stuff, and I was like, man, what are you doing here? So when they offered me the fight, I go to the gym, and I just, for the first time ever, I felt like, man, I don't belong here. I shouldn't be at the gym right now. I should be home doing stuff. My kids are getting older. I got like freshman in high school,
Hmm.
eighth grade. I'm like, man, you ain't gonna get this time back. I remember I talked to a guy tell me how he wanted to be successful for his daughter. He wanted to provide with a better life. Next thing you know, she's in college and he doesn't really know her that well. I was like, man, that's gonna be me.
Yeah.
So I went home. I was like, this is my last fight, and gave me the freedom to train as hard as I can for that fight because I ain't losing my last fight. And then came to the fight. I wrote my retirement letter and gave it to Dana and told him thank you, and I'm moving on.
Wow. I had no idea you did it in a letter. I don't even remember seeing that in the weigh-ins. That's wild, man.
Well, that was a problem though. It's like put a lot of pressure on you with that, because you don't want to lose your last fight, but
Yeah.
you're pot committed, baby. You better win, or you can't go back. So that's
Is that
it's
kind of like a guarantee letter to yourself? Like,
yeah.
okay, I have to
There
do
was
it now.
well now that it's just like, man, if I don't, how do I reconcile with my family saying, oh, I knew the
Right.
right thing to do and I didn't do it before? It's a normal routine, and then when you take a step back and look, you'd be like, well, this was more important than you. I couldn't do that.
2018, you made your bare knuckle debut. Why did you decide to fight again, and why did you go with bare knuckle?
Well, I had no intention of fighting again until I saw bare knuckle. My friend Joe Riggs, somebody came into the gym, go, "You're friends with Joe? He's fighting bare knuckle." I said, "What the hell is wrong with this dude? I mean, why would
What's
anybody
wrong
do
with
something?
Joe?
What's wrong? Does he owe money to gangsters? Why would he do that?" So then I watched it, and like halfway through the fight, I turned to the guys like, "Who do I talk to get in this?" And they were just like, "You just said how stupid it was." I was like, "Man, I thought it was, but when I watched it, I was like, this is it. The intensity is up here, man. You have to be.
Hmm.
It reminded me of back when you could fight with headbutts and head
Yeah.
stomps and stuff. It was like, man, you got to be perfect. These little things right here are going to cut
Hmm.
you. You can't get hit. You have to be precise. And I was like, I got to do a fight, man. I have to do one if I'm a real fighter. And they were like, whatever, man. So they helped me get in contact with the people. I got in charge, and the only reason I really did it is because when I started thinking, like, I mean, first of all, MMA is so hard on your body. To get through a camp, it'd been tough. It'd
Hmm.
been tough. I was already in my mid 40s, but when I took that fight, I think I was 43. I had a couple of 44. But I'm like, man, you can't. That's hard to do on your body unless you're on a lot of
Hmm.
tests or growth or whatever you have to take to get your body in shape to do one of those fights. So you don't have to do it when you're doing bare knuckle boxing. I mean, you hit the mitts, you hit the pad, do like some light sparring, you do stuff and you run and that's it. You're like, that's it. That's all.
Hmm.
I mean, there's no wrestling, there's no grappling, then there's no Muay Thai. I mean, it's so much easier on your body. So yeah, I decided this was definitely the avenue I want to go.
Okay. You fought bare knuckle 3 times, winning all three, and the next thing I hear is your voice alongside Sean Wheelock. How did you get into doing the commentary?
Well, I told him as soon as I went with BKFC, I'm like, look, man, I knew I was like 44 by my first fight with him. I'm like, I want to do this too long, but I knew I'd been developing a lot of knowledge for the past, over 20 years as a combative athlete. I was just like, man, why not utilize this in something else? Why not, parlay this into what it needs to
Sure.
be? And otherwise, it's a waste of time to have all this knowledge and not. You got to either coach and share it, which I had
Hmm.
done, or do some commentary. And I just told him I want to do that. I've done like smaller level commentary. I want to do the bigger level, and I feel I was uniquely qualified having bare knuckle experience, boxing and MMA. I don't think anybody else had that at the high level.
Yeah, I don't think so either. That's awesome, dude. It's been amazing watching BKFC grow the way it has over the last 4 years. I think it's fair to say it is growing faster than the UFC grew at any 4 year period in its history. Where do you see it in the next 4 years?
Man, I mean, to me, this thing could take over. I mean, just if you watch that Philly card, 12
Hmm.
fights, 12 amazing fights. Everyone was better than the next. I think they're a great card.
Hmm.
Um, I've never seen an MMA card where I thought everyone was amazing. if I watch the UFC, you might have, I mean, there might be 10 fights. I might, maybe 3 of them are wow, you know, maybe a couple other good ones. I mean, but if we don't have at least, if we have 10 fights and we don't have at least 7 good ones, I'm disappointed. You know what I mean? I think it's very fast paced, a lot of knockouts. You move right to the next fight. I think it takes all the boring stuff out of a sport and gets rid of it and just puts on pure action. I
Yep.
think once people realize that, once they see it, I think they're going to be like, this is way more entertaining and I want to see more of it. So I think the sky's the limit. So I think the biggest problem for us is being seen. Once people see it, they're going to be like, damn, that's what I want to see. Whoever went to that Philly car, if they don't leave thinking, I'm coming next one no matter what, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, that card was amazing, man. The only part that made me sad is my good friend Dustin Page wasn't able to fight. That kind of bummed
Yeah.
me out, but it won't be long, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's supposed to fight here soon, I believe. But yeah, that sucks. But you know, it wasn't that the fight wasn't good. It didn't happen. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. In 20 years, when people look back at the history of fighting and see the name Chris Lights Out Lytle, what do you hope they say about you?
I hope they say, man, I mean, that dude brought it every time. And win, lose, or draw, this guy, I mean, if I saw him on the card, I'm getting it. I'm paying for
Yep.
it because no matter what, I know there's going to be one kick-ass fight, and that dude's coming to – I wanted everybody when I fought him at the end to say, I don't want to fight that guy again, man. I mean, he's bringing it from the beginning to end. I can't stop him. Something's wrong with that guy. He's just like, I can't knock him out. I can't submit him. He's terrible. He's on me the entire time. Yeah, I want people to be like, that guy was a different kind of animal, and he was one of the most entertaining guys to watch. I mean, you know, in boxing, I love my favorite, you know, boxing trilogy is Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward, and to be honest with you, they weren't the best, you know, but they're my favorite. You know, I can't care less if I'd watch him fight every day over and over again instead of I don't want to watch Floyd fight. I don't care how skilled he is. He doesn't do it for me. He's boring as shit. And
Yeah.
I just want to see good people inspire me. I want to be inspired by fights. Floyd doesn't inspire me. Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward both do. So I want to fight like the people who inspire me.
Awesome. Because you're a boxer, I'm a huge boxing fan. I got to mention my favorite boxing trilogy: Eric Morales, Antonio Barrera.
Ooh,
Also amazing.
yeah.
Great one. Great one. All right. Who are your top 5 fighters of all time? Any style. It could be boxing, wrestling. Your 5 favorite.
Well, like I said, just said one. Arturo Gatti is probably up there. Got to go with Anderson Silva being up there. Randy Couture. You know, I always liked Randy, man. He just kept doing it in different ways. I'm gonna go with old Chuck Liddell and Oldie but goodie. I mean, man, when you really start studying, you go back just watching Muhammad Ali, even back when he was Cassius Clay. I mean, I feel what people don't realize about him is all the fights they know him for. That wasn't the best version of him. I mean, he was Cassius Clay when he fought like that Cleveland guy. I mean, he was so good, you know, and he got his title stripped at 3 years. That's when he had all his fights after he slowed down a little bit and he was a little bit bigger, and that's when he fought, you know, Foreman and Frazier and Spinks and all those guys. That was when he was even at his best, you know. That was, but I mean, just what he was able to do for the sport was pretty unbelievable. And he's a lot of fun to watch. So I don't think people give him enough respect, you know, because they see the old version of him fighting. That's not that's not the best version. Look at the young version. That dude was unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can't tell, my favorite all-time fighter, greatest ever. Nobody better.
Agreed.
Who is your personal favorite fighter to watch in BKFC right now? Not saying that everyone's not your favorite, obviously, but if you had to pick one person.
Man, it's gonna be hard for me not to go with Perdomo. That dude's, I think, 6-0 with 6 first-round knockouts. I mean, that dude, every time he comes, or maybe 5-0 with 5 first-round knockouts. I can't remember, but every time he comes, I mean, people can't. It's a guaranteed knockout. I keep thinking, let's say, okay, this guy might make it past 1 round. Let's see what he's got in the second, third round. We can't tell because he's knocking everybody at heavyweight. He's our you know, Cuban Mike Tyson. He just comes out and lays people out early. So that dude is so much fun to watch. He's so tough. I don't know what we're gonna do with him. I don't know what we're gonna put him in with.
I bet you guys will find somebody. Nate will find somebody for him.
Well, I mean, you know, I'm sure Ben Rothwell's got to be coming up here soon if you don't watch it. I mean, because that would be interesting because Ben, man, who's going to take that right hand he just threw? You know what I mean?
I'm so happy for Ben.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but who's going to take that right hand that he throws? If he can land that right hand, I said, I don't care who you are, you're going down.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Um, who is a fighter that maybe early on in your career inspired you?
Geez, man, there's a couple. I remember the first time I fought in Japan. I saw Evan Tanner was on the card. And I remember this being like, dude, this dude's an animal. He was an interesting guy. But early, I remember the guy who I don't think people give him enough credit for this, and he carried, and I mean carried the UFC for years, was Tito Ortiz. I remember I was in Japan once and I got to roll with him. I remember thinking he was a big ground and pound guy. Dude was slick. He knew he had great moves. He knew what he was. I was like, man, I didn't know he was that good. I thought he was just this, big strong guy who took people down and just like perfected the ground and pound. Yeah, but he could roll. I mean, he could do submissions. He had all kinds
Yeah.
of good stuff, man. So that really impressed me. And I just the way he carried the UFC in
Hmm.
2000 through probably 2004. I don't know. He
Yeah.
was it. He was as good as it got. And I think people once the sport got popular, that's part of the problem. Is once the sport gets popular, certain people who were up at the top aren't there anymore, and so people look at him as like, hey, he was all right, but he's I mean, yeah, but he carried the UFC for a long time.
Hmm. Absolutely. Um, as I mentioned to you earlier, I dug around to try and find a story to bring up with you, and you may have actually mentioned it earlier. Maybe not in quite as much detail, but I reached out and was told a story about you going to Japan, and there was an issue with the weight classes. And for the first time in my knowledge of the sport, you had to gain weight to get the fight.
Man,
Can you tell
it
me about
was
that?
it was horrible. So the whole time I'm going to Japan, they have no weight classes. And they
Hmm.
go, okay, we're coming up with weight classes. I was like, great. And I don't know if you remember watching like UFC 4 when Dan Severn was fighting. He had his manager Phyllis Lee, old lady with a cane. That was my manager, and like she was good in many ways, but like like I said, the first time she goes, Chris, how much do you weigh? Please tell me you weigh 100, at least 190. I go, I weigh 190. She goes, okay. I weighed 175. So the tournament, like they started doing weight class, and she puts me in like the 190-pound weight class, and then I go, I didn't know until I got there. I'm like, what? I weigh 175. She's like, you told me you weighed 190. I was like, you told me, please tell me you weighed this. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. So I get there and I'm like, I think I had to like 187. I'm like, okay. I can't remember what it was, but I remember it was in kilos, but I'm like, I'm way under, and they're like, well, you have to weigh this weight. I'm like, that's not how it usually works. It's like, you can be under, you can't be over. They're like, no, you have to weigh this. I was like, so I'm like, I go upstairs to have all this food and I'm eating this food and drinking like all this juice. And I like, have you ever tried to gain weight, like eat, like my stomach was so full if I was going to throw up. I'm like, I can't. So I go and I step on the scale. I'm still like a pound under. I'm like, you got to go back. I was like, what am I going to do here? So I remember I'm sitting there and I'm trying to drink more and I just feel like I'm going to throw up. And my manager came up and she had like a bunch of yen, like a bunch of change in this big
Hmm.
pouch. And she goes, here. And I put my shorts on in my cup and I put this change in my cup. And I'm walking, you can kind of hear it shink, shink, shink with every step. I get on the scale, I weighed well, and then they're talking over there, and I was like, okay, they let me. And then they made a rule after that, like you couldn't wear shorts. You had to just wear your underwear from then on because they knew that I cheated. But I was like, man, it's tough to gain weight in one time. I felt so sick. I was like, oh, I felt so blue. You can just see the picture. My stomach is sticking out. Somebody sends me like, that's that picture. Oh, it looked like I was pregnant. I was like, yep, that felt horrible, man. It was stupid. I was
Oh,
like,
that's a great story, man.
it was terrible, man. But yeah, it was not good.
Single-handedly changed the rules in fight for fighting in Japan with your athletic cup.
With my cheating, yeah, my cheating to gain weight, to gain. Yeah, never heard of that.
That's awesome, dude. These next few questions are kind of goofy. I want to get to know you,
Okay.
Chris Lytle, the person, a little bit, and hopefully associate with the rest of us a little bit better. What do you like better, pulled pork or brisket?
Oh, I love brisket. I mean, I
There
do.
we
I
go.
don't get me wrong. I do love pulled pork. I make pulled pork a lot, and I'm
Okay.
not even good at making brisket. But if you make a brisket the right way, oh man, that's. I don't need anything with it. Just that brisket is phenomenal. So if you can make a good brisket, I love that thing. That's one of my favorites.
All right. I don't know if you're ever in Northwest Arkansas. If you are, send me a message all day long when I'm not talking to fighters on my phone. I make world champion winning barbecue in a
Stop
restaurant.
it.
So, hey, dude, I'll hook you up with burnt ends. As long as you can
Oh,
chew,
Burns.
I'll feed you.
Oh man, well I'll look like I did in Japan, man. I'll be like, my stomach will be sticking out. I'll be like, I'm gonna throw up, but I don't care. You know what I mean? If
There
you
we
keep
go.
feeding me that stuff.
All right. Who's more likely to beat you in a fight, Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris?
Hmm. I'd have to think Chuck Norris. I'm a firm believer that wait, they got weight classes for a reason. You know, I mean, I don't care if you're that. I don't think there's any 145-pound guy in the world who's beating me. I just don't think that.
Right.
I don't care. Maybe I'm delusional, but no, I don't care how fast you are. I think I'm. They got weight classes for a reason. Chuck Norris is much bigger than Bruce Lee, so
Mhm.
I would think Chuck would be a tougher guy to deal with.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, if you're not skilled, weight doesn't mean that much. If you are skilled, weight means everything.
Gotcha. Both in their prime, Ali or Tyson?
Oh, Ali all day long. It's not even. I mean, like I said, I think Tyson in his prime was phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I
Mhm.
think Ali not only what he proved he had good whiskers and he had good brains. He understood fighting. I think he would have been
Mhm.
smart enough to figure it out, avoid Mike Tyson, be out of the way a lot, lean on him, do whatever he had to do to wear him down and beat him,
Frustrate him.
frustrate him. He outthought him because and he could take a punch. He could take a hard
Yeah,
shot. I mean, he took too many of
absolutely.
them. That was his problem.
Are you a dog person or a cat person?
I mean, I'm a dog person. I like dogs. You know, the only, I mean, it's just difficult because with my lifestyle, I'm busy, so I'm going
Mhm.
a lot. It's hard for me to kind of like have a dog by myself,
Right.
which I have a family, so I can do it. But I mean, cats are easy. You feed them. Hey, here's a little bit extra food. You don't got to worry about them. And the only problem is cats couldn't don't care about you. They're like, oh, I want attention now, but otherwise, like, I don't care. They'll go do
Yeah.
their own thing. A dog is going to be there every time you want them. Hey, so. But
Yeah.
they're hard to deal with, man. Like if you leave, you can't just leave and not deal with a dog. You can deal with a
Hmm.
cat. So they're both good in their own way. But if I had to have one, it's definitely gonna be a dog.
Gotcha. All right. Am I more likely to see you drinking coffee or an energy drink?
You know what? I really don't drink either one of them.
Okay.
I take it back. On I don't drink coffee. So weird. And I drink. Only thing I do, like right before a broadcast, I'll drink one of our sponsors, Bucked Up Energy drink. I drink a
You see
Bucked Up.
this?
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Bucked
I
up.
I drink that right before I do some commentary because it gets me, thinking fast and talking
Sure.
fast. I'm like, I want to make sure I have energy. But I've never really been a coffee guy. It's so funny. Most of the world, oh, it's like, you don't drink coffee. I'm like, no. I mean,
I can't stand it.
it's not that I don't like that. I mean, I don't care about the taste. I'm like, I always see people when I go early to the airport. I'm always super early a lot of times. I get there like 4 in the morning, and there's this big line of people addicted to coffee, having to get their fix. I'm just like, I don't need that stuff. I don't want to be addicted to anything. I don't want to need
Absolutely.
anything like that. So I use it when I think it helps me. I don't want it to. It's never going to use me. I'll use it for help. That's how it's got to be.
I like that mentality, man. Both in their prime, GSP or Anderson Silva?
And I'll tell you what. To me, I mean, Anderson might be one of the best of all time, just because there was about an 8 to 10 year period where nobody could touch him. I mean, I don't
Yep.
think people realize just how much he dominated that middleweight class. Um, and it wasn't just through one technique. I mean, his stand up was phenomenal. He had good submission game.
Hmm.
I mean, to me, don't get me wrong, GSP is phenomenal, great. But I mean, I think after he fought Sarah, got knocked out, I felt like he was always like, I'm going to take you down and dominate on the ground. And not even like submission wise, typically, it was more
Hmm.
just like a control. I'm going to control you.
Not to lose.
Yeah, yeah. And Anderson wasn't like that. He was coming to beat you usually.
Yep.
And I think, seriously, there's about an 8 year period where I don't think anybody's matched that, how good he was.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. No offense, Anderson's my favorite MMA fighter of all time, and some of those fights, like when he fought Stephan Bonner, the Matrix stuff. Well, I've never seen anything before that or after that that even comes close.
Well, even like Forrest Griffin, where he's like putting his head
Yeah,
back and out of the way and just hitting him like just effortless. I mean,
yeah,
just complete control and complete dominance against a champion level fighter. It was,
yep,
you just don't see people doing that at that level. You could do that against a guy maybe in his second UFC. You're not doing it against a guy fighting who's a title holder. It's just
yeah,
crazy.
absolutely. Are you more likely to root for the Pacers or the Colts?
Colts. I mean, man, I I used to, I mean, back in like the 90s, I was a big basketball fan. Basketball was different. I watch it now. I don't even recognize the sport. I'm like, this isn't basketball to me. You might as well have a 5 second shot clock. They just run and flick. There's no defense. Everybody's a
Hmm.
prima donna prick. I don't like any of them. I don't like the sport. I can't watch it, man. So, I mean, the Pacers might be a great team. I don't know. I'm not watching them. I don't care, you know. So it's not. But when they took like defensive away, I'm out. I mean, I like a
Yeah.
good I even like backing it with the Pistons when you go down low, see what happens. You know, you're gonna get hacked. You're gonna get thrown to the ground. Now people flop. Oh my God, he touched me. I'm just like, man, this is weak. You know, I don't even like it. So.
When I was a kid, my favorite basketball player was Detlef Schrempf. I'm sure you remember him.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a weird
Awesome.
favorite player, man. How'd you come up with that?
I don't know. My favorite, I think my favorite football player was Webster Slaughter, the receiver for the Browns. Who knows?
Wow. You're like me, man. Like I don't like typically like the main like I'm not like LeBron or Michael Jordan. I'm always liking something more. So like my favorite basketball player of all time was like Charles Barkley, who was
There
great.
you
But I
go.
mean, I love the Chuck Wagon. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm surprised if you like the pace like Detlef Shrimp. It wouldn't have been like a Reggie Miller. Come on, Miller time. Reggie was fun to watch. That guy's talking so much
Detlef was
trash.
number 6. He was the first go-to,
That's true. That's
the
true.
first one called on, I guess maybe is what it was. All right. Let's see here. When you're watching the fights, do you prefer to watch a quick, epic knockout or a brutal war?
Brutal war. I mean,
There we
man,
go.
like quick knockouts. I mean, anybody can get a quick knockout. One thing I love about BKFC is I'd say every card we have somebody on the card who gets knocked down, gathers up the strength and courage to stand back up and knocks out the other guy. I
Yep.
mean, dude, I love people getting off of the canvas to win. We have that all the time. That shows heart, determination, will. You don't get that with a one punch quick knockout. I mean,
Hmm.
that happens all the time. You can do that, but to get knocked down and get up and win, or even to get up and not win and keep fighting, that's what this is about to me. It's about showing your heart, and that's
Hmm.
why I love this sport. People showing that will to win and that desire to be great. You don't see that with a quick knockout, in my opinion.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. Uh, who do you like better, Jordan or LeBron?
I mean, is that real? Come on, Jordan. I mean, that's not even shouldn't even be a question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, LeBron's whiny to me. You can see all these plays him flopping, and I mean, it was funny. I saw this one. I can't remember what it was. It was like Jordan was the only player to like win the scoring title of the year, the NBA, championship, the MVP of this, the
Hmm.
defensive play of the year, this, and this. Like, oh yeah, he did it 4 years. He did it 4 years. Like, oh, I mean,
Yep.
I don't think people can understand the magnitude of how
Yeah.
dominant he was, and also always in the biggest time, the most crunch time. I do say, give me the ball and get out of the way.
And
You
never
know,
failed
or
once doing it.
defensively, I'm D'ing this guy up. That ain't
Hmm.
LeBron. That ain't LeBron at all. To me, LeBron should average about 52 points a game. I mean, he's so big, strong, and
Hmm.
athletic. I feel like anytime that guy wants to, he should be able to dominate.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's mentally as tough as Jordan was at all in any realm. So you can't even compare the two, in my opinion. Physically, he's the best.
Sure.
But as the best player, if I could build a team, he ain't number one pick. Not at all.
Nope. Nope.
I don't. He wouldn't even. He might not be in my top five. I don't even know.
All right. This next question is a strange one, but I always have to ask. In your bathroom at home, does the toilet paper come over the roll towards you, or does it go around the back?
What are you, psychotic? It's got to go over the top. If you round back, I think you're just an idiot. You don't know what you're doing. I mean, come on. Is that a real question? I
Yeah,
mean,
I've had
I
three
am a
people
man, but
say behind.
they got some problems, man. I mean, that's not the way it goes. I mean, come on, man. That's embarrassing. If that's we wouldn't be friends. I don't know. We're not cool.
All right. This is the last question like this. Who wins in a fight tomorrow? Chris Lights Out Lytle or Jake Paul?
Against each other?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm whipping that big dude, man. Come on. I think I'm taking him easy, man. Come on. I mean, here's a problem. Size does matter. He's a big, strong, tough guy. I give you that, but
Mhm.
I don't think he's got that dog in him, man. I don't think he knows how to deal. I mean, we haven't seen it. We haven't seen him be able to deal with that. And
Yeah.
he might fight me because he's 30 pounds bigger, but he has the rule of 30. He's got to be 30 years younger than you or 30 pounds heavier than you. So I would probably qualify because I'm probably both of those, really. Hell, he'd probably definitely fight me. I'm both of those, yeah. But I mean, I don't think I don't think he'd like to deal with my pressure. I think I'd get in on, but Duke can hit hard. He's a massive, big, strong guy. But I think eventually, when you get into people like that and you stay in their face and that's a different kind of animal. And I think
Mhm.
a lot of people mentally break. I can see him mentally break. I mean, it's tough to. I can't remember who said this. Dang, I knew at one point. Maybe it was Marvin Hagler. It's hard to get up and go run in silk pajamas. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
when you get all that money in the world, I mean, fighting has typically been a thing for poor people,
Mhm.
people who have no option. And, you know, I think it'd be difficult for somebody to really dig deep when they have to, if they don't have it. If their life is too easy, that ain't good.
Right. All right, we're almost to the end. Every time I interview someone, I like to ask them to share a message with people who are watching who might right now be going through any of the number of problems that we all go through in life. If you have a message to share with people who are struggling, what would that message be, Chris?
Man, if you guys are struggling, you just have to make sure you're doing everything in your power to be as happy or successful as you can. You have to cut out all the negativity. It's just about doing all the little things, whatever it takes to be successful. That will bring you joy. You have to start thinking about that. Focus on it. I always talk about, like, when I was fighting, people would be like, "Well, how did you do it? You had a full-time job at the fire department. You had 4 kids." I was like, "That's all I did. I either was at the gym, I was at my kids' things, or I was at work. There was no." I didn't, like, people like, well, do you like to play golf? I don't ever play golf. Do you go hunting? I've never been hunting in my life. Like, I only had time to do what I had to do. I
Hmm.
focused on that. So you have to just focus on what you can. Don't worry about anything else. Do the best you can, everything, and your life's going to be all right. Focus on what you can control. I
Hmm.
always tell these fighters when they're like, I get so frustrated when they miss weight. I'm like, man, you can control two things in a fight: how hard you train, and if you come in on weight. You can't
Yep.
control the ref, you can't control the judges, you cannot control that other opponent. Focus on what you can control and worry about nothing else. If I come in a fight and I train my ass off, I'm not worried. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. You don't worry about anything. If I showed up and I didn't train, I'd probably be worried. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be good. So focus on what you can do, and that's all you have to worry about.
Awesome. I love that, man. Other than commentating, teaching, fighting fires, and giving up your free time to rednecks online, what else do you have going on in your life?
Man, I'm so busy right now with the BKFC, doing that, doing some tryouts, really focused on trying to make this sport blow up, trying to get people to see it. I have been able to do a couple things lately. Back with my, I do some anti-bullying. I got this thing called Lights Out on Bullying. I was able to uh, do something here in Indy. I'm setting something up for
Oh yeah.
Albuquerque. So anybody interested in me talking at a school or anything like that, or doing like a boys and girls club, I think in Albuquerque, let me know, man. Hit me up on Instagram, and I come do it free of charge. I bring some books and give them out, and just try and make it to where, you know, if you don't
That's
do
awesome,
anything
man.
about the problem, don't complain about stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing, dude. I love that. What is the best way for fans and friends of you to keep up with you these days?
Instagram, man. I try and put all my stuff I'm doing on, with the fights, and I always respond back to people who hit me up. So Chris
Yes,
Lights
you
Out
do.
Loud.
Yes,
See,
you do.
Chris
Is there
Lights Out Loud.
anything?
Hit me up.
Is there anything else you want to share before we hop off here?
No, just anybody who has been paying attention to the BKFC, you're falling behind.
Hmm.
I mean, why watch great, exciting stuff, right? I mean, you're missing out if you don't watch it. Check it out.
I love it. It's I'm addicted to it right now. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. We've spoken enough at this point that I feel like we're friends. I hope you consider me one. I will upload this to YouTube, Chris, and I'll send you a copy of it. If for any reason you don't like it, let me know and I'll take it down.
Mike, no, I appreciate it, and can't wait to see you again, man. Let me know.
I'll see you one day. I've got that judge's license now, and Andy Foster told me he'd have me in California by the end of the year. So
That's
we'll
what I want to
see.
hear, baby. I'll see you there then.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Have a great rest of your day, sir.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.